Hello and welcome. So in this part we are going to automate our recommendation system, including a regular database update and automatically mailing us the buying signals. In specific, in the first step we will extend the code from the previous video, then use the smtp library to send mails containing buying signals, and in the end, probably the most interesting part, we will automate everything so that we are getting daily buying signals. Some remarks: I will use the recommender class from the end of the last video and extend it to update our database. For the mailing part, I will use the smtp library, but not going into details to save ourselves some time. I will link a resource with more details in the video description. You should also check out my last video on cronjobs, which enables us to schedule Python scripts. Disclaimer: this video is not an investment advice, it is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The signals generated are based on historical data. Historical prices are not necessarily an indicator for future returns, so please do your own research and don't blindly follow the instructions. Okay, so let's start with a quick recap of the recommender class, which we have created in the last video. But before that, this is the libraries we need, so let's execute that. And as you see, this is a class containing a class variable. The engine enables us to connect to our MySQL database. Then we are using a constructor where we are providing the actual index. So as you remember, we worked with Nifty 50, RTSI and Bovespa. The getTables method was pulling the tables from the MySQL database. The getPrices method was pulling the prices. Then we were using the golden cross, MACD, and the RSI SMA. So these are just calculating those technical indicators, and this function apply technicals was just applying those technical indicators to the price data pulled from the MySQL database. Then in the end we were using the recommend method, which is just giving us the recommendation when a technical indicator was being triggered. So if a condition of a technical indicators was fulfilled, we were getting a recommendation here. So let's execute this again, and I will quickly show you how this was working. So first of all, we are creating an instance for the Nifty 50. So we are using the recommender class and provide Nifty 50 here. And with this instance, we can call some methods. So for example, we could use the getTables method here, and as you see now we're getting the constituents from the Nifty here. And if we're using the recommend method here, we are getting something like this. So MACD buying signal 4 and then the equity. Right? Now what is still to be done is to update our database. Right? So we didn't cover that in the last video, and this is what we are doing now. For that, I'm creating two new methods to this class. The first one is just checking what's the maximum date in the moment, right? And with this, we can just update the database and check for this max date. So we can pull data from Yahoo Finance, but beforehand we can just check, okay, is this the maximum date? So this is what I'm doing now. So let's just define a method here. The first one is max date using self, and then we are using the same logic as we did in the getPrices method. So to select data from the MySQL database, you have to provide the schema, a dot, and then the table name. So we could just copy paste this syntax here, and instead of schema we can just use self and then the index. So this is just the Nifty 50 in the very first example, or not in the first example, but when creating an instance for the Nifty 50, then the index is Nifty 50. For the RTSI, this is RTSI, and for the Bovespa, this is Bovespa here, right? So just the schema name. Dot is just here, so this can be the same. And then we have to define the table name, and we could just use the getTables method for that, which is providing us, as you saw below, wait, get tables. So we are just getting this column here, so we can use table name. So table name, and then I'm doing something which is not, or which could be not 100% correct. I'm just filtering for the very first row, which is in this case Adani ports. And this could be problematic because the max date of this security could be different than another one, which is, at least in Germany and America, in my experience, never the case. So if you have a maximum date for this one security, it will be the same for the other one, right? Because you have holidays and stuff like that, but in the end, all equities have the same maximum date. So correct me if I'm wrong here. At least it's in my home market or in the worldwide equity indices, as far as I know, this is the case. Okay, so now we are returning pd.read SQL, and we are using a select max statement here, provide the date, and then we are using this. By the way, this is for requests. So we're using request and then provide self engine. So let's execute that here and let's test that. So we have to create a new instance to test that and then use max date. By the way, I've already updated the database. So I will get, as you see here, the 25th. You should get, I think it was the 4th of June, as far as I remember. But if you're updating the database, you will get the same. And this is what we are doing in the next step. So we are just creating a method which is updating the database. So let's define a new method here, update database, taking the self argument here. Then we are starting with defining our max date. And this is just the resulting max date here. So we can use self max date. And now let me quickly scroll down here and you see this is a data frame, right? So to get the actual date value, we have to access the max date column here and then just take the very first entry. So this is what I'm doing here. So I can just use max, then date, then filter for the very first entry. So this is just providing me the max date. And now we have to define newly an engine. So maybe you're wondering, okay, we already have a class variable containing the engine above here. Yes, we have, but this is only the level where you can select schemas and tables. But now we want to write data into a specific schema. So this is why I'm creating an engine newly here. So we are using SQL Alchemy, create engine, then copy paste from above. So we are using the exact same database here. And then let me quickly go in the next line. So this is just telling Python, okay, I want to work in the next line, right? Nothing more than that. And then let's use that again. And now we are providing the schema name, which is again just the index we've provided. So in our example, or not example, but in the case of the Nifty, this is just connecting to the Nifty 50 schema here. Okay. Or if you're providing RTSI, this is connecting to the RTSI schema, Bovespa schema, and so on. Now we just want to loop over the table names in this schema. So we can just use for symbol in, then use the get tables method here, and then the table name. You saw that before. So I'm just looping over the column table name in all those tables in the particular schema. And now I'm pulling data. So I'm using the yfinance library, use the download function and provide the symbol. And I'm setting the start date to max date here. And what I'm also doing is I'm filtering that, because I've explained that in some of my previous videos. So if you're starting at the max state using the download function, you're normally starting at t-1, right? So if I would pull that for today, so today's the 26th and today's no trading day, I would get data for Friday. So I want to filter that out, and I'm just using a filtering approach here, where I'm just telling Python, okay, if my index is larger than max state, I only want to have this data. So thereby I'm avoiding multiple entries. Then we are resetting the index. We've done that in the last video. So we just want to have the date as a column in our database and not as the index. And then we're using the to SQL function, provide the symbol as the table name, provide our engine, which we have defined above here, and then telling if that exists, we want to append that. And you could also print out a feedback value here. Let's do that. So we're just telling, okay, the schema was successfully updated, but this is optional, right? Okay, and if we are executing that, we can update our database by just creating a new instance here and then calling update db. But in my case, so something will happen, and that is the data will be downloaded, but it will not be written into my database because of the max date check, right? So I will show you. So if I'm executing that, you're seeing that I'm getting the downloads here, but nothing is happening in my database because I already updated it. So you can execute that how often you like. You will only get new entries when there is actually a new entry, and I think that's an important check. Okay, so that's it for the update here. And in the next step, we want to send ourselves a mail with the recommendations, right? So let's get rid of that here and import smtplib. Then I have to provide my credentials, which I unfortunately don't want to share with you. So this is just stored in a notebook here, which is creds. And I'm defining my sender as my mail, which is a variable stored in this Python file here. Then provide my password as my PW, which is again PW, which is again a variable defined in the credentials Python file here. And then I'm defining my message using f-string again. Then go through the next line here. Set the subject to, let's just take recommendations here. And then we are starting with the nifty recommendations. And this is just the nifty instance calling the recommend method here. Then for the next ones, we need to actually create those instances or instantiate here. So inst bovespa would be the recommended class, providing the bovespa, and also the RTSI, providing the RTSI. Okay, we have all instances. So yeah, let's just add them here. So bovespa So by the way, I'm just structuring the mail I'm sending out here, right? Using f strings where I'm filling all my recommending functions here. Bovespa recommend and RTSI. So RTSI, and yeah, I'm also telling myself good luck with those recommendations. Okay, now a very important thing we have to amend in our class is this one here. So the recommend method is currently just printing out the signals. If you're printing out signals, you're not getting a stored value which you can pass to the mail. So if I would use it like so, I would just get no recommendations here because this is just a printout currently. So we have to do an important amendment to the recommend method here, which is just using an empty list here and then just append what we have printed out before here, and also return those signals. So that's all. So now we are just getting the recommendations in the form of a list. Otherwise we cannot work with that. Right? So let me quickly show you how this is working. We need to instantiate again here. So we could use instnifty, then recommend. And now you see you are just getting the recommendation or the buying signals in the form of a list. Okay, nice. So yeah, we have finished our message here. And then we just have to define some stuff to send out the mail. So as I said, I'm not going much into details here. We have to define a server, use the smtplib, then smtp, and I'm working with Gmail here, but there are also possibilities to work with Outlook, and you can look up what providers you can work with. So I'm using Gmail here. This port is predefined by Gmail itself or by the library itself. So this is nothing special. Then we have to start the TLS and log in by providing my sender and my password here. So with that, I'm just logging into my mail account. So let's execute that. And yeah, this is just typo here. So this was working, at least it seems to be. So I can just send a mail to that to give you an idea how this is working by providing sender and then message. Why 2 times sender? Because both the sender and the receiver as I just want to send myself those signals, right? And yeah, let's send that. So just if you're skeptical that this could be faked, we have 3:44 p.m. here. So let's send that and let's see what we are getting in our mails. So let me quickly pull that over here. So this is my Gmail account. By the way, this is a fake inbox. So this is not my actual mail. And now you see I'm getting a mail here, recommendations, and then all my stuff here, right? Nifty, then the recommendation for Nifty, recommendation for Bovespa. I hope you can read that actually. And yeah. So I think that's pretty nice. That's pretty cool. And here again the timestamps so that you see that's actually has been sent out. Yeah, as said, I will link some resources in the video description, so you have to create an app in the Google interface. But it's pretty straightforward, so I won't cover that here. Okay, now let's move to the, at least in my opinion, most interesting part in this video, where we are automating this whole process. So first of all, we have to transform the notebook into a Python file. So let's open up the notebook again, but we have to do some amendments to this file before transforming that to a Python file. So right now it's a IPYNB file, so just a notebook file. So first of all, this won't work. So I'm importing a Python script from my desktop. So wait, I'm showing you. So you see I have a creds file here, which is containing my credentials, so my mail and my password. So I'm using creds here, import creds, then a creds.mymail and creds.mypv. Okay, but I think, yeah, we have to do some more things here. So of course we have to update the database. So we are using the instances here and just call the update db method here. With that we have updated the database, and then we are sending out the mail. Okay, nice. So we can just, I'm quickly checking if we have missed anything here. Okay, now let's just download that as a Python file. Where is that Python file? And there we have it, automated recom.py. So let's get rid of that all here. And let's just pull it on the desktop here for reasons of simplicity. Okay, we have those two here on the desktop. And now we are opening up a terminal. And we are creating a cron job here, right, to automate the process. So you can't read that, I think. So first of all, I'm opening up my nano editor and create a cron tab here. And let's just, first of all, let's create that file, or that let's execute this automated recommender .py script every 5 minutes. So this is what this is meaning. So check out my cron job video for more information on that. So, or just this page here, cron guru or something like this, cron tab guru, this one. So you see at 4 o'clock is the minute 5, 4 o'clock, yeah. Or another example, at 5 minutes past midnight in August is this one here, and so on. So just read yourself in here, right? Okay. Now, as already explained in the last video, I want to change my current directory to the desktop where my Python files are stored here, right? Then, so this is just, and also do something else. And then I want to access my Python interpreter. So I have to find out where it is by just typing in where, you can't read that probably, where Python. And then you see this is my Anaconda environment where I want to execute this Python script from. So I'm specifying that here and take the automated recom here. So let's enlarge that. Automated recom.py. And if I'm executing that, so I'm pressing exit here, then yes, and then enter. Take a look at the cron jobs. And now I should get, if everything went better than expected, I should get a mail every 5 minutes containing the recommendations. So of course you have to set it to like, yeah, midnight or whatever time. So the problem here is we have Nifty, Bovespa, and RTSI, which are in different time zones, right? So you have to find the proper time where it makes sense to update the database and send out the recommendations. But just to show you how it's working, I'm using 5 minutes here. And I'm back, so let's quickly check our mails here. So I have around 500 tabs open here. I have no idea where it is. Gmail, inbox. And now you see we are getting the recommendations here automatically sent to us. And yeah, if you just set that to, I don't know, midnight, you will get daily technical recommendations. By the way, to have an overview of your cron jobs, you can type in crontab-l, and we want to get rid of that, right? Crontab r, and now we have no jobs for that. Otherwise, you will get a mail every 5 minutes, right? So just some last words, so some kind of discussion. The problem with this approach here is that you need your operating system. You're dependent on your operating system, right? So if your system is offline, this job will not be executed, right? And the solution to that is using a virtual machine on a cloud platform. So I will probably cover something like that in the upcoming videos. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was adding value for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing the upcoming videos. Bye bye.